who's a journalist at Global Voices and is following developments closely from Rio de Janeiro. He's via Skype from Rio. Thank you, Robert, for being with us on Al Jazeera. So Donald Trump says he's not ruling out sending the military to Venezuela. The European Union has given an ultimatum to Maduro to call new elections. The international pressure is clearly growing on the embattled president, but it doesn't seem to be working so far. He's rejected calls for new elections. What do you think it's going to take for him to change his mind?
Well, I think more international pressure, and I believe that the new sanctions that were established last week in terms of oil price, or the stoppage of oil purchases from the United States, the halting of it, will definitely take a toll. I mean, let's not forget that PDVSA, or Petróleos de Venezuela, the state oil company, finances Maduro's socioeconomic plans. So once we start seeing the effects of the sanctions established over the state oil company, we might see a change. I believe that the only way for this crisis to quell a little bit is to actually sit down with the opposition and agree with a solution and a call to new elections. Obviously, it's not going to go down easily, with the exception of what Colombian President Iván Duque said, that the Maduro will go down in a matter of hours. I don't think that's going to be the case.
But Juan Guaido, the opposition is so far refusing outside mediation, outside intervention. If the EU recognizes Guaido as the interim president, as they're threatening to do after this deadline expires, what would it change to the situation on the ground? Maduro still has backers on his side, including the army.
Correct. Now, that's a really interesting question, because even some members of the army outside of Venezuela, some of the what you call representatives of the military in other countries, have actually supported Juan Guaido. So little by little, we're seeing changes within the military. But as I mentioned, it's not going to be easy, because we're not just talking about the military. We're talking about a militia power in Venezuela. We're talking about 1 million people apparently willing to take their lives on behalf of President Maduro. I'm afraid that this is not going to go down easily. There might be some bloodshed. I think that's the scenario that we all want to avoid. But there are other interests at stake. I'm sure we've heard before that the intelligence officials in Venezuela are run by Russians and Cubans. At least this is what political prisoner Lorenz Saleh told me during an interview last year. So it's not going to go down that easy.
Yeah, especially with China and Russia backing Maduro, and Trump saying he's not ruling out military intervention, though he might be just talking on the fly for now. Are we looking at a potential flashpoint, another potential flashpoint between Russia and the U.S. in Venezuela this time?
Absolutely. I think we're talking about a new tug of war between two allies, between two former allies. I would say the current powers in the world, the United States and Russia. We are seeing the same struggle that has happened in Syria. Now it's going to be moved into Venezuela. Let's remember what happened a couple of months ago when Russia sent two nuclear bombers near the shores of Venezuela and not too far from the United States. So I think that this is going to be a new struggle in the balance of power. We'll see how this is going to go down, but I'm afraid that there's no clear path, with the exception of finally sitting down and decide when the next elections are going to take place.
Thank you for your thoughts. Thank you very much for your insight, Robert.